Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome to Slumpbuster Fantasy Football Podcast, Episode 8, recording here on Sunday, October 13th, 2019. Find us on all major streaming platforms. On today's episode, Dre stops by the podcast to help Aris break down NFL Week 6. Without further ado, let's bust that slump and welcome to our show.
All right, guys, another week in the books. I have a special guest with me today since our teams were playing, but I think I might kick him out by the way it's going. You're probably hearing Andre laugh right now. It is currently 24-0 Pittsburgh against the Chargers. Not too well of a game going right now. So, I mean, it's Andre. How are you doing,
man? So I'm doing fantastic. I don't know how you're doing. So, and all the listeners, right? If you listen to the regular Slumpbuster podcast, you'll know that I said, hey, I think it's going to be a blowout. We're on our third string quarterback. I didn't think it was going to be a blowout going this way, though.
Yeah, it's God. I hate the Chargers so much, but I love them so damn much. But it's just
see, and that's the thing is like you guys always play down to the level of competition.
It doesn't matter.
Like,
we play up to our competition. We play down to our competition. Whoever our competition is, that's how we play.
Yeah.
It's just,
yep.
Unless we play the Patriots, and then we just
and then you always suck. Yeah.
So we actually are in a league together, Andre.
Mm-hmm.
The Remember the Titans, just because our buddy Anthony is a huge Titans fan. Let's kind of go into that. Even though we are terrible. For completely different reasons.
I know. Yeah, is this what you want to be saying on a fantasy football podcast? Is that we're bad at fantasy? Yeah.
But when you play and the person you're playing against has the highest scoring week that week,
yeah.
I mean, I have Cooper Kupp. I have Chubb. Like, I have two of the best players in fantasy right now, and it doesn't matter. It's just I always lose.
Mm-hmm.
To the person who has the highest points that week. It's just, and your team just underperformed. So it's like,
yeah.
My only win is against you, thankfully. Heck, even the guy that's in last place, Etch-a-Sketch, our buddy Larry.
Yeah, popped off the week he played.
He was 0-4, never broke 100 points. Bam, put up 140. I scored like 131, which is unheard of in our league.
Mm-hmm.
And I still lose. So it's just like, terrible fantasy week for me in that league. At least I'm going to lose again to Scott's probably going to have the highest score of the week again.
Mm-hmm.
Your team just has continued to underperform for you.
They just always underperform. So do you want to run through what our teams are in this league?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's go ahead and pull up yours first, and then we'll go through mine.
All right. So in this Remember the Titans league that we got, I've got Aaron Rodgers, who has, in my opinion, underperformed like crazy for Aaron Rodgers. And I mean, the thing is they have a better defense this year, right? And I know that they're relying on
the run game, which is they haven't had in the past, so they really don't need it.
Exactly. And so I think Aaron Rodgers is like, all right, man, like it's gonna be a vacation year for me. I mean, every single week in this league, right? Like you would think that Aaron Rodgers can easily go out and get you 20 points. It started with 12 points, almost 13 points against Chicago, 14 points against Minnesota, 13 points against Denver. He did pop off against Philly for 26, and then 9 points. So it's just been underperforming after underperforming as far as Aaron Rodgers. Adam Thielen's been a little bit inconsistent, but I think that's because of the issues with Kirk Cousins. This week he finally met projections, and last week he popped off. But other than that, like he's been up and down. Robert Woods as well, but I think that's just because Kupp is back. I've got Joe Mixon, who has been garbage right now just because the Bengals in general have been garbage. I got Jordan Howard, who's been okay here and there, but again, hit or miss, underperforms a lot. My tight ends. So for a long time, I had O.J. Howard, and that is the definition of underperforming this year.
Oh my God, he's
And the one time he finally like had sort of a breakout game where he put up above 10 points on my bench, because I was like, well, at least I'll put in Hawkinson, who might have, a few better looks. No. So I got Hawkinson now. I got Sutton from Denver as my other wide receiver, LaShawn McCoy, Emmanuel Sanders, T. Williams out of Oakland, and he's actually been doing well, but he's been hurt, and they're on bye and stuff right now. Matthew Stafford, who maybe I'll switch to being my QB1 over Aaron Rodgers. And then I did just pick up Herndon from the New York Jets as their tight end.
With him coming back with Sam Darnold, he looked really good as a rookie. So second year usually take a step forward.
Yep, exactly. And so I think now that he'll be back from suspension, he's still injured a little bit right now. That's why he didn't play this week. I think he'll probably be my starter at tight end above T.J. Hawkinson. And then Saquon Barkley's been injured, right?
That's always hurts you when you have injuries like that.
Yeah, so, I mean, what can I do? And then as far as kicker, I got Fairbairn and then New Orleans defense.
Okay, so I mean, just solid team is just underperforming like crazy.
Week after week, it's just underperforming.
And then we'll go through mine. So I rolled with Gardner Minshew this week. Like, I was like, you know what? Saints defense, they can give up pass yards. They can give up pass touchdowns, but I don't know what it was, but they were super stiff today. They only scored 6 points, all field goals.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked wrong on that one. My bench actually outscored my starters, which is terrible. Cooper Kupp, which you kind of have to play Cooper Kupp every week.
Have to, yeah.
Only 1 point. Then Julian Edelman, he's been pretty consistent. Nick Chubb is so far my MVP. I can rely on him except for 1 week so far this year. I traded for Melvin Gordon. I traded away Lev Bell, and so far that's hurting me because Melvin Gordon has not done crap since coming back from his holdout. And then Ertz has been, as being drafted as high as I drafted him in the 3rd round. He's tight end wise, not held up his end of the bargain. It's just terrible. And then I got Marvin Jones starting. And then my bench killed it for me. I have Mike Williams, he's on or off. Ronald Jones, he's up and down. Baker Mayfield, I hate freaking Baker, dude. Last week I played him. No, actually I started Andy Dalton last week, so it didn't matter. But 22 points on the bench. He actually showed up this week.
Mm-hmm.
Then Robbie Anderson popped off, 92-yard touchdown. Sanders finally did something for Philly. And then I picked up Chase Edmonds. This one was more of because I'm so terrible at running back that David Johnson has been injury prone. So I picked him up just to handcuff him. And then I got A.J. Green, which I'm still waiting on. He's just holding that IR slot. So Oh, no, we fumbled it. Oh, my God.
Man, you guys are awful.
Oh, my God.
I'm just saying, we got our 3rd-string quarterback. James Washington is out.
Oh, my God.
A bunch of our defensive players are out, and you guys still suck.
Desmond King, dude, you are a legit punt returner, and you actually fumbled it. Oh, my God. Well, that's going to be it for the podcast today. I'm going to go cry myself to sleep because that was absolutely terrible. Was there interference on that? Nope. No interference on that, but you could kind of call that interference. He didn't let him catch it cleanly. He hit the ball. See, fair catch, and he hit it.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be catch interference. So, fingers crossed on that.
You might get that one back
because he knocked it out of his hands. He didn't let him catch it cleanly.
Yeah. You might get that one back.
See, right?
He signaled. Yeah.
Breaking down a live feed on a podcast probably isn't the smartest thing, but who cares?
I mean, even if you get this ball back, I don't know how much it's going to help you guys right now.
That's going to date this podcast. You cannot listen to this podcast tomorrow because you're not going to be able to see what we're talking about, but whatever. So, all right, let's actually get into breaking down the games that happened. You'll probably hear us interject here and there on the game, just FYI on that. So let's actually get into Thursday night. Giants 14, Patriots 35. First half, this looked like a game.
Yeah.
And then the Patriots kind of just ran away with it.
Mm-hmm.
Golden Tate's really the only Giant to actually do something. 6 catches, 102 yards, and a touchdown. Tom Brady had 334, no touchdowns and a pick, but he saved his day with 2 rushing touchdowns. And then Edelman, 9 catches, 113 yards. Really, this backfield now with Bolden mixing in, and like I said last week, Belichick hating fantasy running backs. You can't really rely on any of these running backs. Do you have anything to add to this game? Because it was actually a fun one to watch.
Yeah, no, it was fun. I think we still know what to expect from the Pats, right? Like they're gonna be good, and they're gonna beat those teams that are just okay or bad, right? And so it went how I expected it. I thought it was gonna be a better game, like you said from the start. The Giants looked good. At one point, I believe it was even tied, right? It was like 14-14. Yep. And then after that, it went downhill for him from there. But what can you expect? You know, you got Daniel Jones, who's young, and Tom Brady, who's obviously got the experience of every quarterback in the league, basically.
Yeah. Going forward, though, I think you can rely on Golden Tate, Sterling Shepard, Evan Ingram, and Saquon Barkley. The offense looks and runs a lot better with Daniel Jones.
Mm-hmm.
There are going to be up and down weeks with a rookie quarterback, but for the most part, I think you could flex and even start most of these people going forward.
Yeah. And from a fantasy perspective, I just saw that Saquon Barkley did tweet out, be back soon or something like that.
That Wakanda treatment is finally paying off.
Yep. So with the fingers crossed emoji, right? So it looks like he might be back next week, which honestly, for a high ankle sprain is ridiculous.
Coming back after 3 weeks is crazy.
Yeah, there's like even the best athletes in the world, right? We're talking about professional athletes, and most do not recover that quick from high ankle sprains. So.
That's just ridiculous. I saw, what was it, that video that came out of him running and jumping, and I was like, how?
Yeah.
How?
So it's insane, but hopefully he'll be back. So if you do have him in your IR, you could pull him out of your IR hopefully next week, and hopefully he starts popping off.
All right, next game we have the Seahawks 32 at the Browns 28. This was a sneaky good game. Even going into this week, I knew this game would be pretty good fantasy purposes wise. Russell Wilson, MVP candidate, still rolling. 295 through the air, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and he added a touchdown on the ground, which is what you can expect from Russell. He can get out there and run. He doesn't like to, but he will get out and run if the play breaks down. Chris Carson, 124, 1 touchdown. Baker Mayfield, not too good of a game, about average. 294, 1 touchdown, 3 picks, but he did add a touchdown on the ground as well. Nick Chubb still rolling, 122, 2 touchdowns. Odell Beckham Jr. finally came out to play, 6 catches, 101. And then Seals Jones had another touchdown, 47 yards. That's 2 of the last 3 weeks that Seals Jones has scored, with the tight end position being so up and down. They actually go on bye week next week, so it's probably not going to be beneficial. But with the bye week, or with the tight end position being so scarce and so up and down, he might be a streaming target moving forward, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so, especially if it's like, hey, I know a lot of people that only keep one tight end on their roster usually, just because it's a more of a position that you're not really sure about. So could be a good pickup if your tight end happens to be on bye that week or something.
Yeah, and then Carson and Chubb, you can just set it and forget it, guys, minus bye weeks. And then Russell Wilson, I mean, he's MVP candidate, still has yet to throw an interception this year. He's just, you're going to start out slow with him, but he's always going to end up, right near the top 10 in quarterback. So most of those guys, receiver wise for the Seahawks, it's going to be hit or miss with Lockett and DK Metcalf. Lockett still would be your wide receiver 2. Metcalf definitely a flex. And then Jarvis Landry, I'd still flex him. He did have a touchdown called back. I guess he never really scored it. It was an iffy play on that one for that touchdown. Yep. So I still think you can flex Jarvis and probably wide receiver 3 Odell. I don't see him being that wide receiver 1 right now just because he's been very inconsistent. I mean, 2 weeks ago, he had 2 catches for 20 yards.
Yeah.
So
I also, if I remember correctly, Disley went down, right?
Oh, yeah, Disley did go down. It looks like an Achilles injury. I don't believe they've said just yet. But if it is Achilles, then he's done for the year. One of the top tight end targets in the league is gone now. So that makes that scarce tight end even scarcer. But they do have Luke Wilson. They brought him back from I believe it was the Raiders. So you could look for him to possibly be a streaming target going forward based off matchups. Next game, Texans 31, Chiefs 24, and a surprising game. I thought this actually was pretty close all the way through. I know a lot of people had the Chiefs winning just because Patrick Mahomes, I saw, was undefeated in 11 o'clock games. Well, 11 o'clock Mountain Standard Time, 1 o'clock Eastern games. And then they actually went out and lost. So it's surprising to see them lose. I think they said that all of his losses have come in primetime games. So can we consider him a choker? If he's lost all of his games in primetime,
I mean,
is he considered a choker?
I think it's a little bit early, and he's a little young for that. But if the trend continues, possibly. The other thing I was surprised about is, so this is back-to-back losses for them.
Back-to-back losses.
And it was at Arrowhead. I was not expecting that.
Back-to-back losses at Arrowhead, not just
at
back-to-back
Arrowhead.
losses.
So
yeah, it's a bit rough. I mean, they have a get-right game with Denver next week. So Denver's been looking good. I mean, they beat the Chargers. They beat the Titans. So, are those two teams good or are those two teams bad? But the Broncos have been looking better. Their defense put up a hell of a game today. So, that game next week might be a sneaky upset for Denver. But let's actually get into this. Deshaun Watson, 280 through the air, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, and then he added 2 touchdowns on the ground. Just like Russell Wilson, you can expect that if the play breaks down, him to run the ball. Carlos Hyde actually had a good game, 116, 1 touchdown. And then Hopkins, this is 4 weeks in a row now that Hopkins has had a terrible week. He only had 55 yards. And then Will Fuller, everybody, oh my gosh, Will Fuller, oh my, he's going to, nope, 44 yards. It's up and down with Will Fuller. It's what you get with him. He's boom or bust. Mahomes, 273, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Tyreek Hill, though, first game back, and they featured him. They didn't play him, but when they did play him, they looked to get him the ball. 80 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 touchdown was ridiculous. He had like a 70-inch vertical.
Yep.
He hovered in the freaking air for like 40 seconds.
Jumped over the back of somebody else.
Before catching the – it was just ridiculous. If you haven't seen that, I don't know if you're living under a rock because I've seen it pretty much everywhere. That catch was ridiculous. And then Kelsey, that tight end position. Those top 3 guys really haven't performed to the top 3 status, but he had 58 yards. So Hopkins, Fuller, I mean, especially Hopkins, this is 4 weeks in a row now.
Yeah.
Where last year he was the number 1 receiver in the league. This year, what's going on with that?
I'm not sure, and I don't think the Texans are like playing that much different of a style or anything.
No, I mean, he had 9 catches. I mean, he's still getting targeted like crazy.
Yeah. So I am a little bit worried, though. Do you think that maybe it's like a sell high moment, right? Like maybe you could trade him for
I
another...
actually think it's probably the opposite. It's a buy low right now. Because it's Hopkins. I mean, he's going to turn it around. This is 4 weeks now. I'd probably say maybe we're getting into like week 6, week 7 of this trend. Then it's probably going to be for the rest of the year. But 4 weeks, I think he can still turn it around. I think it's a buy low right now. I think you could get him at a cheap price. Maybe if somebody is really hurting at running backs in your stack, you can trade him your 4th running back or your 3rd running back. I don't think like last year where you would have had to give up Saquon for him.
Yeah,
something
no way.
like that. I think this is a buy low
Mhm.
for Hopkins. And then Fuller, it's just that's how it's going to be with Fuller. You're going to get boom or bust, and then he's going to get injured, and then you're going to put him back on the waiver. So,
Yep.
All right. This game was surprising to say the least. Saints 13, Jags 6. I didn't expect this low of a scoring game. I thought it was going to be, about mid-20s for each team. Yeah. That's decent defenses, pretty good offenses, but I mean the defenses are the ones that came out to play. Mm-hmm. Teddy 2 gloves, 240 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. Kamara had a terrible game, 31 on the ground, 35 through the air. Thomas actually had about the week that he's been having with Teddy Bridgewater, 89 yards. And then Minshew at 163, no touchdowns, 1 interception. Fournette stunk, 72 yards. And then Chark, who has trended towards must start because he was the 5th best receiver in the league going into this week. He only had 43 yards, where he's had, 100 yards or a touchdown in every game prior. He kind of stunk on this one. Mm-hmm. I'm high on Teddy Bridgewater, not next week, but the following week. They get Atlanta.
Oh, yeah.
So if he's on your waiver wire, I'd pick him up and stash him. They play Chicago next week. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we still want to hope that's a tough matchup, and it just London got to Chicago. Mm-hmm. But what would you do with Kamara?
So with Kamara, I mean, I guess how has he been performing the past few weeks?
It's been pretty consistent to these numbers this week.
Mm-hmm.
Let me pull up the numbers real quick, but it's been since Breeze has gone out, his numbers have gone way down. Mm-hmm. It's not been to the level whereas, Mike Thomas has actually been performing.
Yeah.
So it's a bit rough with him. So
I mean, we do know that Breeze will come back eventually, though, right?
After the bye.
After the bye.
So they have Chicago, Arizona, and then a bye. And that game after would be 7 weeks after that thumb injury. And they said about 6 to 8 weeks
is about that range.
Would be that range. So, I mean, 11, 16, 13 points in PPR purposes since Breeze has gone down. Mm-hmm. The first game after Breeze, they featured him like crazy. He had 37 points, 2 touchdowns. But then since then, it's 11, 16, 13.
Yeah, which, I mean, I think is still respectable, right? Like, it's more of like a really good scoring flex or a running back 2.
Yeah, not the running back 1 that you were drafted.
Yeah, I think I would hold on to him, honestly, especially with Breeze coming back here in a little bit, depending, right, if where you're at and how bad you're hurting in your league. If you can afford to,
if you're in last place, probably try to sell him, get
something bit. Yeah.
If you're in first place, just hold on to him.
Coast it out, right? Like I think there's no way, even though Teddy Bridgewater has done a fantastic job and he's been able to definitely keep the Saints more than just afloat, right? Like he's been winning these games for him. I think there's still no way that he keeps the starting spot over Breeze. Like you just can't.
Oh no, yeah, Breeze is coming back. Minshew has filled in pretty decently. They're 2 and 3 with him as the starter. Is there a quarterback controversy, or when Foles gets healthy, do you go back to Foles?
Man, I think
with Minshew mania, everything going how it is in Jacksonville, they're 2 and 3. He's done decently well for a rookie. He's performed at that rookie level where Daniel Jones is at, where most of those other rookie quarterbacks are performing. So, What do you do as a quarterback or as the coach? I mean,
in Jacksonville's situation, I think I roll with Minshew. Like, I think from a front office perspective, like it's going to make you more money, right? Like Nick Foles is not that marketable, right? So to make money, I go Minshew mania. And like you said, Minshew, like statistically outside of today he did not have a good game. But other than that, he's actually been doing pretty well. And I would even say above what you would expect of your typical rookie, right? Like there's some rookies that, hey, right away, they're going to be fantastic, right? Like you had Russell Wilsons and stuff like that. But those rookies are few and far between. And Minshew, so far to me, has lived up to it. I think I would keep him over Nick Foles.
Yeah, what do you think? And fantasy-wise, none of, like, pretty much all the guys are performing at the same level. Chark, Leonard Fournette, D.D. Westbrook, all those guys are pretty much performing at the part that they were with Foles. So fantasy-wise, receiver-wise, running back-wise, probably don't have to worry about it. It's just who would be playing at quarterback. And I'd probably go with Minshew Mania. They're probably going to go with Foles just because of how much they dropped on him.
Yep.
But I'd probably go Minshew. I'm high on Minshew Mania, so we're coming out with the Minshew pictures on Instagram, so look for that. Next game, winless Bengals, still winless. Are they tanking for Tua or hurting for Hurts at this point?
I mean,
because Andy Dalton's gone.
I think so. Like, I think they basically have to blow up the Bengals, right? Like, they missed their window. They had made it to the playoffs several times, never made it out of the first round, and so now it's time to blow up the Bengals.
Yeah, they said they're not trading A.J. Green, but A.J. Green said he's not signing with them. So trade him. Get something for him because he's not, unless you franchise tag him, then he's going to hold out, and then we're going to have this whole situation again with Melvin Gordon, Zeke, all them. I would trade him for some assets and then just rebuild.
Exactly. And honestly, AJ Green's like trade value, not in the league necessarily, like in a fantasy league, but just like the NFL in general might be hurting a little bit because he's injured. But like anything's better than nothing, right? Like even a 5th round pick is better than.
So Andy Dalton, 235, no touchdowns, 1 pick. He did add a rushing touchdown. Mixon, we kind of already picked on Mixon. He terrible, 10 yards on the ground, 29 through the air.
And he's been underperforming all season long.
I think he has like 2 touchdowns on the year, so it's not very good. Alden Tate was the lone bright spot, 91 yards. But then Lamar Jackson, he decided to do everything on his own today. 236, no touchdowns, no interceptions. But he had 152 on the ground and 1 touchdown. So if you take out the passing numbers, he's an elite running back. And then you add in the passing numbers, it just adds to his value. I still think he's going to be matchup-based compared to some of these other quarterbacks. And then Ingram, 52 on the ground, 1 touchdown, 22 through the air. And then Andrews, who I said was going to lead the team in receiving, he's leading the team in receiving. He had 99 yards. But he ruined your fantasy day because he had a fumble trying to jump over somebody.
Yep.
We had this conversation earlier when somebody in the game tried to jump over somebody. We just told them, you guys need to just stop altogether. Right?
Yeah.
This is terrible.
Exactly. You're seeing a bunch of these guys like trying to hurdle. And without a doubt, if you can do it right and it works, it looks super cool. But like the situation tonight in the Pittsburgh, and
they just
Chargers.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was like 3rd and 19. Dude wasn't anywhere close to getting a first down, right? Like there was still 10 yards back. And you're just risking more injuries. So, word to the NFL players, right? Unless you 100% know you're going to clear them or you need the first down or you need a touchdown,
stop.
Just stop. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so going forward, I'd probably only play Alden Tate as a flex. You could probably get Boyd as a flex if you're in a deeper league. And then Dalton he's a terrible, serviceable quarterback, but he's still serviceable, especially when we're getting, 6 teams on buys, stuff like that. And then Lamar Jackson, I'd still play. Andrews, I'd still play, and Ingram, I'd still play. But any of these receivers, Hollywood Brown hasn't been since that first 2 weeks. He hasn't
been up and down.
Yeah, he hasn't been doing anything. So that's pretty much the only guys I would play fantasy-wise.
Are you starting to get a little bit worried about the Ravens? I mean, they had a very close game with the Steelers, right? Even after Mason Rudolph went down. Now, like they won by about a touchdown against the Bengals, right? But it looks like they're starting to struggle a little bit.
I figured they were going to be about middle of the road, 9-17. They're going to be in the hunt picture. When you're watching NFL games, come towards playoff time, they'll show you division leaders, wild card, in the mix, and in the hunt. They're going to be in the mix, in the hunt, people. I don't think they're going to win the division. I think it's going to be the Browns. Unfortunately, you guys.
You
guys, it's just a wash season for you guys.
And there's no first-round pick for us.
Bengals are hurting for Hurts or tanking for Tua or one of those two.
Yep.
So I think the Browns, it's their division to lose now. unless something drastic happens. The Browns do have that tiebreaker now over the Ravens. So I'm not worried because I wasn't expecting much from them anyway.
Yeah.
All right, next game was a terrible, terrible game. I think they came on red zone 3 times.
Yep.
And one of them was because they have to show a touchdown. But Mariota went 7 for 18, 63 yards, and 3 picks. Then he got benched. Tannehill came in 13 of 16, 144, no touchdowns, and got picked. So their quarterback situation's terrible, which makes their whole team situation terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Henry, if you were starting him with confidence, sorry, he only had 28 yards. And then on the Broncos side, Flacco had 177, no touchdowns, interception. Lindsey, only bright spot, 70 yards and a touchdown. Sutton, 76 yards. And then Sanders, a lot of people were flexing him. He actually left the game injured with no points, so he's kind of screwed you if you flexed him. It was just a terrible game.
Mm-hmm.
2 terrible teams. I'm still 0-6 picking Titans because I picked them to win this week.
Yep.
I know you I know you and Juju have a terrible track record where you guys actually were like, you know what? One has to pick one against, one has to pick 4, so we can actually bring that. You guys were 0-8 against them.
We had both. None of us had been able to choose because every time when it came to the Titans, we'd always pick together. So we'd always be like, yeah, we agree the Titans should win this game. And then they would lose it, and we'd be like, oh, Titans are definitely losing this game, and they would win it. But I think that's the thing is the Titans are just so inconsistent. And even now it's worse, right? They're moving on from Mariota to Tannehill next week. So
which are the same quarterback, so the same problems.
Exactly. And so to me, I just don't feel comfortable with any offensive pieces really, like when it comes to the Titans. So
what about the Broncos? You good about the Broncos?
I mean, Philip Lindsay, every now and again, he underperforms. I think
so. Flex option is about where I would put him. Sutton's actually done a really good job for me so far in my PPR leagues, anyways. I don't have him in a standard, so I can't really probably
speak to
flex
that.
Him as well then.
So. Yeah. So they're okay. There's nobody really that I would say on the Broncos that like, oh, you should definitely have this person, right? Like trade for him or anything like that. Especially we know that Joe Flacco, like there's a reason why he's not on the Ravens anymore.
No, he's not. He's entering his prime. Didn't you hear Elway?
Oh, is that what it is?
When they got him, he said, we are getting a guy who is entering his prime.
Yeah.
Not over his prime, entering his prime.
Yeah, I think Elway might be a little bit senile right now or something like that.
You would think Elway could pick a quarterback because he played quarterback.
You would hope so.
He just lucked out that Manning wanted to play with that core of people that they had already set.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think he might have been fired as GM.
Oh, absolutely.
So, I don't know if they would fire him because they love him so much up there.
Elway, right?
If you go to Denver, Elway is everywhere. So.
Mm-hmm.
All right, this next game, we actually had to call our buddy to see if he was on suicide watch or not because he is a Cowboys fan. Cowboys lost 22-24 to the winless Jets. Let's say that again. Winless Jets.
And on top of this, Sam Darnold was coming off of mono. Somehow, a grown man contracted mono. And, I mean, it was his first week back. And for a long time, they were whooping on the Cowboys.
Oh, it was 21-0 at one point.
Yep. Yeah. So this was just a bad day for the Cowboys. So check on your Cowboy friends, right? So if you got any,
make sure they're good.
Yeah, just give them a hug or something.
But Dak had 277, no touchdowns, no interceptions, added a touchdown on the ground. Elliott 105, 1 touchdown, added 47 through the air. Cooper left on the second or third play of the game with 3 yards. He left hurt. So quad injury for receivers, that's a big injury.
Mm-hmm.
Probably look to go to Gallup, Witten going forward if he's out next week. But then Sam Darnold, like this is what they were hoping for when they drafted him and they brought in Adam Gase. 388, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. I mean, that's what they were hoping for, and they're getting it out of him.
Mm-hmm.
I'd still probably not play him, especially next week when they go to New England or New England comes to them.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably avoid him, but he might be a streamer option going forward, especially 388. I know some leagues give you a 3-point bonus for 300 yards, so that's a heck of a good deal. You want those guys. Le'Veon Bell, 50 yards, 1 touchdown. Jamison Crowder, 6 catches, 89 yards. Robbie Anderson, though, man, he balled out. 125, 1 touchdown. And he was on the bench, of course, because he's boom or bust. But I think he leads the league in air yards right now, which means the ball traveling to him, whether he catches it or not, that's an air yard target. He's leading the league, which means they throw it to him deep and they throw it to him often. So he's going to get those. He's probably only going to have about 5 catches. You can get anywhere from 40 to 120 yards and, a touchdown or 2 usually. But Jamison Crowder back on, flex duty. Herndon, when he comes back, he'll be on flex duty.
Mm-hmm.
And same with Robbie Anderson. But then, Cooper, you could still – or next week he's probably going to be injured.
Yep.
So if he comes back, I might sit him. Actually, it would be hard because the Eagles' defense is terrible.
Yeah, they're not very good. And the Cowboys do, at least as of recently, have been getting up for that game, right? Like, so the Cowboys, I think, won both games against the Eagles last year. And so we know that the Cowboys are going to get hyped for this game, especially because this obviously has,
it's their biggest rivalry right now. But if Cooper does sit, I would go Gallup with confidence. Witten with slight confidence.
A little bit.
I mean, he had 2 targets in the red zone. I mean, that's really good, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
anybody that picked up Witten, though, you got to know that's what you're going to get. It's like
he's slow.
Yeah. And if he does anything, right, it's going to be like a little 2-yard catch, right? And then he'll get to, But, PPR leagues, right, he tends to get a few more catches maybe than some other tight ends would. Just not as many yards.
He might get more work if Cooper does sit. He might get more work. So you could probably put him into a streaming option if you don't have a set tight end right now. But what would you do with Dak? Last week he had 400 yards, but he had like 3 picks. Now he has 277, 1 pick, 1 touchdown on the ground. Are you starting him with confidence, streaming him, or just leaving him be?
So I don't know. I think next week I might start him with confidence. Like I said, like they've done a pretty good job against the Eagles. The Eagles are really inconsistent this year.
And their pass defense is ferocious.
Yeah. And the thing is I don't see the Cowboys losing another game, making that 4 games in a row that they would have lost, right? So I would start Dak with confidence next week, though if this trend continues, because he's progressively gotten worse as the year has gone on.
Well, they've played better teams.
Exactly, yeah.
They played arguably, at the time, the Giants were terrible because they had Eli.
Yep.
They played the Skins.
The Dolphins.
Terrible. Dolphins, terrible. But then they played the Saints and the Green Bay Packers, which are decent teams. So, yeah, they're going to struggle against better teams. So.
And I know that on their schedule, they've got a pretty tough stretch. So I think their next 2-3 games or something might be okay, right? Like you'll have the Eagles and a few other like easy to middle tier teams. But then there's going to be a stretch of about 4 to maybe 6 games that I do know is going to be pretty tough for them.
Yeah, they have Philly bye, then the Giants, and then the rest of the year is tough. Minnesota, Detroit, New England, Buffalo, Chicago, Rams, Philly. So maybe that last game against Philly, if you make it to the Super Bowl, you could probably do it. But that stretch, I'd probably just leave him.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So, yeah, that stretch, and they're all very good defensive teams.
Oh, yeah, New England, best in the league. Buffalo, second best. Chicago's still up there. Even the Rams did pretty well. Didn't help that their offense gave Niners offense short fields pretty much all game.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's a rough stretch for them. But let's go into the Tank Bowl. We were joking about this thing I mean, all week we had memes on it. We had you're just joking because, I mean, I don't know, would you consider – no, because Cincinnati's actually been competing in games.
Yeah, and I think Cincinnati legitimately is trying to win some games. Like, they just can't right now. But I would say that Cincy is legitimately trying.
I mean, yeah, they've been competitive in games.
Mm-hmm. You guys finally get a touchdown?
Woohoo! And Hunter Henry's on my bench because I wasn't sure to play him or not. And yep. Touchdown. 10-24.
Now you guys will miss a PAT.
Hey, shut up. All righty. So actually, let's get into this. Skins won this one in terrible fashion.
What did you expect?
It was a terrible game leading up to the last minute. It was 17-16. Case Keenum, 166, 2 touchdowns, no interception, which is a Keenum game.
Yeah.
He's going to be a game manager. Adrian Peterson actually had 118 on the ground. But then McLaurin, I mean, I'm going to pat myself on the back real quick. I said he was going to be a top 5 receiver, and in PPR and standard, he is the number 2 receiver. He had 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Rosen got benched. I don't know what they're doing at quarterback. Rosen had 85 yards, 2 picks, no touchdowns. Fitzpatrick came back, 132, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. I mean, Kenyon Drake just dropped the ball on the 2-point conversion that they would have won the game. We were having a discussion here in my family when, they scored to possibly tie it. We were arguing. All right, you're 0-4, they're 0-5. You're down by 1 point with 30 seconds left. Do you kick to go to overtime, or do you go for 2 to win? You suck, they suck. Do you just win to get it over, lose to get it over, or play for overtime for you to suck even more and possibly tie?
I would go – honestly, I think I would have went for the kick because I wouldn't be able to trust my team if they're that bad to try to go for a 2-point conversion. So you might as well just go for the extra point and roll the dice and hope that you can score first, with a touchdown.
Yeah, next week it doesn't get any easier. The Redskins play the Niners. Niners are a sneaky good defense now. And then the Dolphins go and play Buffalo, which is the second best defense in the league. Yes. So they're going to go win. Dolphins are going to lose another one, and Skins are going to still be one in 6 now.
Yep. From a defense perspective, though, if you need to pick up a defense and you just the Bills are flown out there for some reason.
Bills were still available, or they were only picked up in 60% of leagues. San Francisco is picked up in 60% of leagues as well, so they're both still available. I would get them and start them both with confidence.
Yep, absolutely.
I mean, we'll get into what the Niners did this week, but I mean they shut down the Rams. So I mean, the Niners are sneaky good. Julian, I don't want to hear anything about you loving that we were talking good about your team. Just shush. We don't want to hear it. Just you have the best team out of all of us, so I don't want to hear it. Shush.
Yeah, and here's the thing: is every time I always pick against the Niners because I'm like, there's no way this is sustainable, right? Like Jimmy Garoppolo sucked. He's coming back off injury. I was like, there's no way. It's not going to happen. And every single week they prove me wrong. And this week especially, they told me to shut up. So next week, I'm going with the Niners.
The Washington Redskins.
It'll be the 1 week that the Redskins show up and beat the Niners.
It's not a crappy team.
Yeah, I'll watch.
So did you wake up at 7 o'clock this morning?
I did not, no.
So you missed the first part of this game like I did?
Yep.
Because I knew there was a morning game, and then I just 7:30 on your day off. Who cares? Yeah. But Bucks and Panthers went over the pond. I'm not going to make you do what Julian made us do with the terrible British accents because mine was god-awful.
Yeah, we were talking about this. So he said yours was even worse.
It's terrible.
It sounded like a weird Irish type accent.
We're not going to do it. But Panthers actually played as a team. It wasn't Christian McCaffrey this time, but they won 37-26. Kyle Allen, 227, 2 touchdowns, still no interceptions. Christian McCaffrey, the Bucs are the only team to slow him down. He had 31 on the ground and a touchdown, 26 through the air and a touchdown. Curtis Samuel, 70 yards receiving and a touchdown. And he had an 8-yard jet sweep for a touchdown. DJ Moore, 73 yards. Carolina, I am on Julian's side now. There is a quarterback controversy. You cannot go back to Cam. The team looks so much better with Kyle Allen. He is undefeated. He is yet to throw an interception. Yeah, you got to go with it, right? You got to ride the hot hand.
I 100% agree. And, this was the thing when Kyle Allen first stepped in and actually started performing well, right? Like, got them out of that losing streak. And, we had talked about this a little bit, like, hey, if he continues to perform at this level, which he has, like, I 100% think that you got to roll with him. And from, like, an ownership decision, Cam is a little bit controversial, especially with some of the comments he's made, like, towards, female reporters and, like, stuff like that.
Terrible fashion statements.
Yep. And he's always bringing, like, some type of attention, but a lot of times it can be negative attention to the team and to himself. This is the perfect time to get rid of him. And there's plenty of teams, I think, right now that are hurting for a quarterback.
Who would take him, though?
I don't know. That's the
you said they were hurting.
They are hurting.
So let's just say they ride out Cam as their backup. They release him at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Where does he go? Where does he end up?
I mean, that's the hard thing is because especially with Cam, he doesn't want to be a backup, right? And he's
going to want to be Tennessee maybe?
Tennessee, I could see like
Cincinnati, or do you think Cincinnati would?
I think they're going to have such a high draft pick, though, right? Like they might as well get a young quarterback, right, from the draft.
And then I would probably use Cam as a bridge quarterback at that point.
Yeah, I could see that. And I mean, I think Big Ben's coming back next year, right? So the Steelers aren't going to necessarily need him. Though if for some reason Ben does not come back, I could see maybe the Steelers picking up Cam over Mason Rudolph. Like, I think just objectively, Cam's better than Mason Rudolph, right? Though Hodges has actually been surprising me.
Yeah,
like,
whatever.
He's beating the Chargers right now.
Duck Hodges, man, whatever.
But, yeah, no, I think you're right. It is a little bit difficult, just especially with the pride aspect of Cam Newton, right? Like, Cam will not want to play as a backup.
Yeah.
For any other team. So if your team needs a starting quarterback like a Tennessee, I think Cam would be a good option.
And Cam would be. I think Cam is better than Mariota.
Oh yeah,
I think he's better than Tannehill.
Our friend Anthony won't say that, but
oh no, he actually when he called me because you called me talking crap.
Did he? Yeah.
Oh, I had you guys. What the heck? Yeah, whatever, Anthony. I don't want to hear it. But we talked about his team, and he's like, you know what? I'm glad they benched Mariota.
Needed to.
I mean, he's already left the Mariota when he loves Mariota. He finally left Mariota.
Yep. And Mariota's in a contract year, right? And
him and the guy that we're about to talk about, they're both in the 5th-year option of their teams. I don't see their teams bringing them back.
Nope.
So let's get into that guy right now. Jameis Winston. Terrible game. 400 yards, 1 touchdown, 5 interceptions, 1 fumble. Like, the game was a lot closer because of garbage time.
Yeah.
But this game for him was terrible. I had high hopes for him going into the season with Bruce Arians. You know what? Bruce Arians might want Cam next year in Tampa.
I could see that.
That could be. Bruce Arians is a quarterback guru. He had Peyton Manning. He had Big Ben. He had Andrew Luck. He had Carson Palmer.
Yep.
I mean, he can get quarterbacks to play. Jameis Winston, statistically, yardage-wise, touchdown-wise, he has had better, but he's still Jameis Winston, and he's terrible with the ball, so he's still going to give it away. But I would just leave Winston alone. I mean, he had 17 points with 6 turnovers, so I mean, it can be there, but I'm sticking away from him.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I think that's just the story with the Buccaneers, right? Like we've seen them have really good wins. And we've seen them have against the Rams
50 points against the
Yeah.
Rams.
But then there's no guarantee you're going to get that every single week, right? Like if you knew that, hey, they've got this fantastic offense and you're going to get it every single week, right? Like their defense might not win the games for them, so they might lose as a team, but at least the offense is going to be there. Sort of like the Chiefs, right? But like Mahomes, like, Mahomes is always going to, put up major points for you. But right now, like they're kind of just streaky. And like you said, like Winston put up, 17 points, but like there's 5 interceptions. What if he doesn't have 400 yards, right? Like
you're betting on 5 interceptions and 100 yards.
You're screwed. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I agree. I leave it.
Last week I went with Juju and I told him, look, this backfield you stay away from. Jones had a touchdown 2 weeks ago. Barber had a touchdown last week. The week before was Jones. Week before that was Barber. This week was Jones. So they are like back and forth on touchdowns. They both are terrible on the ground. Jones only had 10 yards. Stay away from them. I had to pick him up because I was so running back like needy that legitimately he was my best option, and then he screwed me. And so now I had to pick up Chase Edmonds, as a handcuff because I'm so terrible at running back right now. But stay away from the backfield. The only person on the offense I would start with confidence right now is the best receiver in the league in Chris Godwin. Another 10 catches, another 100-yard game, 151. This guy is killing it. And then Evans, 9 catches, 96 yards. And then I have to applaud Cameron Brate. This guy finally got a touchdown. He is the best tight end to never happen. He has a touchdown almost every game that gets called back for holding or pass interference or some offensive false start. He has had a touchdown in almost every game that has been called back. So finally got one that stands. I just wanted to highlight him. He's 47 yards of touchdown. I still don't like either one of these tight ends, in him or O.J. Howard.
Nope.
So really, Chris Godwin, start him and forget him. Evans, probably a flex. He's not going to be your wide receiver 1 where he was drafted wide receiver 2, but still moving forward, I would go with Godwin 100%. So, man, Kirk Cousins actually beat a winning team.
And you know what's funny is
it's weird to say that.
So me and Juju, we're gonna have to hop on the podcast. We got a lot of apologies this year because every time we talk crap about somebody, they pop off and they're like, "Oh yeah, we heard you guys talk crap." Apparently, so just so you know, professional athletes, they listen to our podcast just for when we talk crap about them, so they can prove us wrong. But same thing happened with Daniel Jones. We both had to come out, apologize to Daniel Jones. Looks like we might have to do the same for Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins, man. He 333 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. I mean, usually he only has that stat line against, 500 or below teams. 500 and above teams he struggles against. But maybe it's just because this pass defense of the Eagles is so bad that he finally popped off. But Eagles lost this one 20-28. Carson Wentz, 306, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Howard, man, this backfield is so wishy-washy. You don't know who to go for. Howard had 49 yards. Sanders only had 6 rushing yards, but he had 86 yards and a touchdown receiving. Alshon Jeffrey had 76 yards and a touchdown. Ertz, 54 yards. So he's, I drafted in 3rd round. He's bit me in the ass. This Philly, they get Dallas next week, which I think they can pull that one off. But then, I don't know if Minnesota is good or if it's just they played a bad defense.
Yeah, I would err on the side of caution with Minnesota, especially because we've seen how bad Kirk Cousins can be, and when he's bad, the whole team can be very bad, right?
It's just
and right now, like I think he listened to some of the criticism and is responding to that. But like, how long can he continue to perform at that level, right? Like I think he's going to regress back to what he truly is, and so I think
beat up on 500 and below. Lose against winning teams.
Yeah.
In prime time.
Exactly. And so, I mean, like today you got very good production out of Diggs. You got a little bit better than projected points out of Thielen. But again, I don't know if I would rely on it just because Kirk Cousins, right? Like there's going to be a moment where I still think that he turns back into a pumpkin.
Cinderella reference.
Just saying.
Thielen, 57 yards and a touchdown. And finally, the one time I sat Diggs, he popped off for 100 yards. Otherwise, I'm like, you know what? It's Diggs, dude. He's one of the best receivers in the league. You got to play him. And he just poops on the bed for me. But finally, I played him because this defense in Philadelphia is god-awful. He had 167 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, Diggs, I won because of you. Thank you very, very much. But Dalvin Cook had a terrible game, especially for being the best or one of the best running backs in the league. 41 yards and a touchdown. And then I highlighted Alexander Mattison. He had 63 yards rushing. He's probably the best handcuff you can have right now.
You think so?
Yeah. I mean, nobody else that's handcuff-wise, maybe other than Pollard, has been getting worked in for, these top running backs. I guess maybe Latavius Murray, but he's kind of filling that Mark Ingram role already. But Mattison is, he looks exactly like Dalvin Cook. So when he was running the ball, I was like, yes, wait, that's 25, not 33. They both have the dreads coming out of the back of their helmets. They both have about the same build as each other. So if you have space available, and he's going to be available in almost every league, scoop him up and just handcuff him. That's what I would do. But everybody else, Cook, I would definitely start. Jeffrey, I would definitely flex right now. He's probably been the best one. Wentz, I'd probably stick with him. I mean, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns is a decent day.
Yeah.
Ertz, you kind of have to play him because, I mean, he's the safety blanket there. But Cousins, Thielen, and Diggs, what would you do with them? Because, I mean, I've been bit in the butt. Thielen has been the better of the two, which in the past it's always been Diggs. And then Cousins, he's
down. I would maybe pick up Cousins depending on your bye week, right? Like, but I would not have him be my quarterback one for sure. Thielen has been a little bit more consistent this year, though. Honestly, like if there's a good trade that you can finagle, right, and they're looking really good these 2 weeks, maybe
him and Diggs.
Yeah, if you can sell high and say, hey, look, they're popping off now, I might look to trade both of them.
All right, now let's get into Juju's game. 49ers 20, Rams 7, in a utter domination of the Rams. The Niners, dude. Just wait till we get into these stats. Jimmy G, 243, no touchdowns, 1 interception, 1 rushing touchdown. Tevin Coleman, 45 yards and a touchdown. Breida, 36 on the ground, 27 through the air. Kittle, 103. When they were saying that he might not even finish the game, he finished with 100 yards. But then the Rams, man, Goff, 78 passing yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Brown, 40 yards. Henderson, 39 yards. Robert Woods had 1 rushing attempt for 1 yard for 1 touchdown. Cooper Kupp had 4 catches for 17 yards. I mean, the Rams stunk. I would, if your team is playing the Niners, anybody who's playing the really, Hunter Henry again on the bench.
That's okay. We're under 2 minutes, right?
I believe so, but Hunter Henry's on my bench, and he scored 2 touchdowns. That's why I picked him up. It's just I didn't think his only plays were going to be in the red zone.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I probably would have played him. God dang it.
All right.
Yeah, minute 29. Sorry, Juju, we broke into it. All righty. So if the team you're playing, or if the guy on your team is playing against the Niners defense, at this point, I would sit them. Don't play them. I mean, look what they did against the Browns.
Yeah.
The Rams now, who are, one of the most explosive offenses in the league. Don't play them if they're playing the 49ers.
I know. Yeah. So that's one thing, right? Is the 49ers, I think we're starting to see no, they're legit, right? Like at the start of the season, I was like, hey, they're undefeated, but they've beaten some bad teams. We don't know how legit they are. I think we're starting to see the 49ers are legit, right? And Kittle, if you have him, right?
Yeah, you got to start Kittle.
Got to start him no matter what.
I would still probably start Breida or Tevin Coleman with confidence. Probably, as your second or third running back, not your first running back, because they are one of the best running offenses in the league. They did have short fields pretty much the whole game, so they didn't have to go much.
Mm-hmm.
But Jimmy G, is he a game manager or is he a game baller? Because his numbers so far have been game manager, where, that's not really good fantasy-wise.
Yeah.
So would you start him or would you not start him?
I don't think I would start him from a fantasy perspective. I mean, from an actual football perspective, he's done what he's had to do, and they've gotten the wins and all that. But I think there's some other quarterbacks that can give you better value.
Yeah, but maybe looking at the schedule, maybe, we get those 6 teams on a bye. Maybe might have to start him.
Yeah.
But definitely, yeah. And then Rams, you just have to hope this is a down week for them, and they're playing a sneaky good defense.
But I'm a little bit worried. I mean,
Cooper Kupp is still killing it. This is his one down week.
Their offense
Goff,
has been
this
good.
is really his one down week. Does Gurley really make that much of a difference? I mean, Gurley didn't play, but when he does play, they don't use him very much. So could that have been it? They just weren't worried about the run.
Yeah, so all they had to do was defend the pass this week, right? I don't know. I am a little bit worried just because from a psychological perspective, right? So this is 3 losses in a row now for the Rams. And so I'm hoping they can sort of shake this funk and get back to having an explosive offense and all that. But if they continue this trend, right, and this slide, I think there's sometimes psychological aspects that aren't quite tangible and quantitative to where we could say, oh, yeah, these players are on, a down slope or something. It's just like, hey, they just fell off a cliff and now they're not able to get back to where they have been.
Maybe they're still in shock from the Bucs loss.
I know. I'm still in shock from the Bucs loss. And then look at the Bucs throwing, 5 interceptions this week.
Yeah, so. It's just wild. But let's get into the last game, which was surprisingly good. I mean, It was very well played on both sides. The only way they lost was because they missed field goal from one of the oldest players in the league, Matt Bryant, second oldest behind Adam Vinatieri. But Falcons lost this one 33-34. Like I said, on that last missed extra point to send it to overtime. Matt Ryan, 356, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. He is the garbage time fourth quarter king. I hate having him on my fantasy because I'm like, first 2 quarters, this dude only has 4 points. What the heck? I'm trading him. And then I look down in the fourth quarter and he has 40 points. And I'm like, yay, Matt Ryan.
and it's like that every game.
Week. And I'm like, I hate this guy. Yay, I love Matt Ryan. Like, no.
Imagine if he played like that
the whole
game. They would be, and they have the potential, right? They have some really good pieces that they can play like that, I think, the whole game, but they don't. And they play like that in garbage time.
Devontae Freeman, he had 88 yards on the ground, 30 through the air, 2 receiving touchdowns. Hooper, 117, 1 touchdown. Julio Jones, 108, no touchdowns. Calvin Ridley, 48 yards, 1 touchdown. Kyler Murray, 340 yards, 3 touchdowns. Finally showed what a number one can do. David Johnson, 34 on the ground, 1 touchdown, 68 through the air, 1 touchdown. And then Chase Edmonds, 34 on the ground, 33 through the air, 1 touchdown. And then the ageless Larry Fitz, who you can flex him every week because he's going to get you points. 69 yards. I only put that because of the yardage.
not the number
not
itself.
The numbers, is just because I saw the yardage and I was like, yeah, I'm going to put that on there. But the Falcons stink.
And I am very surprised by it too. Like the last year, they sort of had the excuse that so many players had gotten hurt, right? Like I can't remember the exact number, but they had lost a ton of their starters.
Defensive players were
decimated. And so you could say, okay, right, like that. I'll give you that, right? Last year was a bad year. Sometimes that happens. It's going on with my Steelers right now. I would say that this year, like everybody's gotten hurt, right? Like there's not much you can do about that. But now the Falcons have everybody back, and they still suck. Like,
yeah, the only Keanu O'Neal is really the only one that has been hurt on that defense coming back. It's just they can't seem to do anything ever since Shanahan. They're still on that Super Bowl hangover.
Yep.
4 years later. But Julio Jones, you still have to play because of the numbers Matt Ryan puts up. I would still start Matt Ryan because he's going to suck in the first half and then the second half come back and kill it for you in garbage time. Hooper, I would usually he was matchup based, but now it's another 100-yard game in the books for him. Last week he had 131. Playing with confidence. Outside of that, Mohamed Sanu and Ridley, they're kind of up and down. 1 week it's Ridley, 1 week it's Sanu. And then Cardinal-wise, it's, Murray, Johnson, and Fitzgerald are really the only guys you can rely on.
Yep.
Edmonds shows he can actually play, so he's a good handcuff now going forward as well, especially with David Johnson being beat up going into the week. He played through it and didn't re-aggravate anything, but still he hasn't shown he could be healthy going forward. So look for him to be a waiver wire target as well for you. But that's it for the games. We still have about 55, so we'll go into trade calls and waiver wire pickups, and then we'll break down our Sunday night game, which
there it is.
Game's over.
There it is.
You're about to score a touchdown.
A pick six at the end.
Oh my gosh!
Okay,
right.
They did not score a touchdown on that, but that ices the game for us. It's over.
Phillip freaking Rivers.
No.
Yep, I just got a message from Juju says I cannot wait for this episode.
No timeouts left for the Chargers, just to let everybody know.
Chargers, I hate you so much. Why?
See? And I chose your team this week, even.
Oh, my God.
I'm on air saying that I chose the Chargers because I thought for sure we've got our third string quarterback in. James Washington
we are
is
going
out.
into last place. You guys are going into tie for second place with the Ravens.
I know.
Did you guys play the Ravens yet this year?
We lost to the Ravens.
Oh, so they're going to be 2. You guys are going to be 3. We're going to be in last place because we lost 2. That passer, or roughing the passer, he touched the quarterback. Roughing the passer.
Nah, they're not calling this back.
Damn it. Damn it. Come on. All right, let's actually break this down real quick. Let me pull up the stats 1 second. Ooh, look at Rivers getting choppy. That's why I love Rivers. He is. All right. Pittsburgh Steelers. Ooh. Look at Rivers. Let's go, buddy.
Rivers don't want to fight the Steelers,
bro.
Though.
Rivers will fight anybody.
No, that's one of the teams you don't fight.
He will fight anybody. Dadgummit. This dude does not cuss because he has 300 kids, so he can't cuss. So listen to any of his mic'd up. He doesn't cuss. He always shoot. Darn. Dadgummit. Like just a good old Southern boy. Just dadgummit. Dang it, man. So Steelers won this one 24-17. They were up 21-0 at halftime. We missed a field goal, which probably would have got us a little bit closer. Ugh, so stupid. Duck Hodges, 132 game manager, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Benny Snell, 75 yards on the ground. James Conner, 41 on the ground, 1 touchdown. He also had 78 through the air, 1 touchdown. Snell added 14 yards. Juju Smith-Schuster, 4 targets, 1 catch, 7 yards. What would you do with Juju going forward? Mason Rudolph hopefully coming back after the bye.
That's what I think. I mean, it's always hard with concussions, right? You got to wait for them to get out of concussion protocol, and there's never like a set amount of weeks. Like with an ankle sprain, it's going to be about that 6 to 8 week target. But when it comes to concussion, it's sort of just week to week.
Yeah, look at Jordan Reed. He's still in concussion protocol from preseason.
Yeah, exactly. And so the Jaysian, right? So Jay, he tried to make me a trade, which it was actually from just the standpoint of we're just going player for player swap. Like, it was a pretty reasonable trade. He was trying to get Cole Beasley, I want to say, for Juju Smith-Schuster. But then for next year's draft picks, though, he wanted like a 4th, and he was going to give me a 12th. And I was like,
trade draft picks?
We trade draft picks as well. And that's where I was like, I don't know about that. Not for Juju's production right now, right? Like, if Mason Rudolph were healthy, right, then I might, absolutely. Yeah. I'm close to, being one of the top people in our league. But right now, I just don't think Juju's going to put up that much production until Mason Rudolph comes back.
All right, so let's get into the Chargers. Phillip Rivers, 320 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. That's pretty much a Phillip Rivers staple. Mm-hmm. You can expect him to be between 250 and 350 yards, a couple of touchdowns, and 1 or 2 picks. He always throws picks. I don't know why. He just does. Melvin Gordon, 18 yards on the ground. Austin Eckler, 14 yards on the ground. And then this one hurts me. Hunter Henry, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns on my bench. He had 9 targets, led the team in targets, led the team in receptions. And they said, he's going to be on a snap count. He's not going to play much. We're going to ease him back in.
Nope.
They're featured this. Mike Williams, 72 yards. Keenan Allen, dude, 2 weeks in a row now. He's just 3 weeks in a row going back to Miami. He's just not been good. Mm-hmm. He only had 33 yards today. I mean, you might be able to actually steal Keenan Allen right now for a trade. So I'm going to put him on my trade for people. Keenan Allen, 3 bad weeks in a row. You could probably trade for him after the 3 weeks that he boomed. I would trade for Keenan Allen. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we lost. Congratulations.
Why, thank you.
Get out of my – nah, we still got a couple more things to do.
Yep.
So let's go into trade calls. I would trade away right now Sony Michel. You can't really rely on what the Patriots are doing in that backfield. Mm-hmm. Brandon Bolden has stolen touchdowns 2 weeks in a row now. I would trade him away, and I would trade Mike Evans away. How do you feel about those? Those are my 2 trade away calls.
I agree with them.
A little bit of hesitation there.
So the Mike Evans thing.
I mean, Godwin is the number 1
Godwin's the number 1 now, yeah. I agree, and I think Godwin's going to hold that. I agree. I think those are good. Sony Michel definitely.
Do you have anybody to trade you would add to your trade away?
I mean, we sort of talked about it, right? Like, possibly Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm more on the side of, like, hold him until Mason Rudolph gets back. I'm hoping Rudolph can come back in another, 2 weeks or so. I think he'll after the bye. He's going to be probably out next week for sure. I would almost say.
Bye.
Yeah, well, the week after that, but I think I think you can maybe hold him, but I could see the argument for hey, you might as well trade him away, see what value you can get, right? He is a big name. A lot of people know Juju, so you might be able to steal some value out of him.
And then my trade for, I just added him, Keenan Allen, 3 weeks now, not been so good. And then my other one is DeAndre Hopkins, 4 weeks in a row now, not been good. You might be able to steal him away for, a lower end player. And just hey, look, man, he's not. They haven't been throwing to him. You don't need him. I think he's going to turn it around. They're going to be fighting for a playoff spot. They're going to throw the ball. Their running back rotation is not that good. They're going to throw the ball. Trade for him. Trade for Keenan Allen. Do you have anybody that you would trade for right now?
No, I think that's pretty good, especially like Hopkins. You have a receiver that's super talented. Juju and I, we even had a discussion about, could you consider Hopkins the best receiver in the league?
I would.
Yeah, absolutely.
He didn't
like
drop
you can
a pass last year. You know how hard it is to go all year and not drop a pass. Like the pass touches your hand. So you in the way that Pro Football Focus does it is if you're targeted and you can actually catch the ball. So not if you're targeted and there's hit the ground 3 yards in front of you, 3 yards above your head, or you had no chance to catch it. If it touches your hands, that's considered a dropped pass. He did not drop a pass. So which means if it came near him in his radius to catch, he caught the ball. That's the best receiver in the league.
Yeah. I mean, I 100% see the argument for it, right? And so you're right. His numbers are down right now. But then when you have a receiver that is that talented and that good, you know he's going to bounce back, right? Like, so Hopkins, I think, would be a really good one to try to buy low if possible right now.
All right. And then waiver wire, you have Panthers, Browns, Steelers, and Bucks on waivers right now. So Steelers, you're not really hurting for anybody. James Conner right now would be a flex. Juju would probably be a flex right now, so you're not really hurting for them. Bucks, you're hurting for Chris Godwin and Mike Evans. Browns, Chubb, Odell, you're probably hurting for. Jarvis Landry is going to be a flex, so not really there. And then Panthers, really the only person you're going to be hurting for is Christian McCaffrey. But Josh Allen for the Bills, they're playing Miami. I still am on the fade Miami train. Anybody playing Miami is going to have a good week.
Yep, absolutely.
Jacoby Brissett coming off of a bye. I like him. He's been in the top, 15 quarterbacks in the league, even top 12 in some games. He's going to get you points. Alexander Mattinson, like I said, I would handcuff him for Dalvin Cook. And then defensive-wise, Buffalo and San Fran. Like I said, 60% of leagues they have them, so that means 40% of leagues they are still available. They play Miami and Washington respectively, so that's a really good week. New England's playing the Jets, and they're already on 99% of leagues. So that 1%, why don't you have them? Don't understand that, but that's really it for waiver wires. Do you have anybody in your mind that you would be targeting?
I don't have too many people. Like we had talked about a little bit is Herndon for the Jets. I know that he wasn't owned in a lot of leagues, mostly due to the suspension, right? So, and he was out this week as injury, but I think he's going to work back in. And then the Bills, like you were saying, especially their defense, they're playing Miami. They already have a really good defense, and now you're playing the worst team in the league, right? Like you're just asking for points right there from that defense.
Yeah, okay. Actually, Knox. I don't know his first name, but Knox. He's the tight end for Buffalo. He might be on the streaming option as well next week because they're playing Miami. So look up Knox. I don't know his first name, but Knox.
Especially like we said, Disley might be injured,
Disley,
right?
Yeah.
So
we'll probably know more probably tomorrow on Disley. So look for that if you have him. But I'm gonna speculate and say it's a ruptured Achilles. Just the way he was pointing at his leg and trying to move it around.
Yeah.
Which he's gonna be done for the year if that's the case. So. But that's going to be it for us. Look for us on Instagram, Slumpbuster Podcast, Twitter, Slumpbuster Pod, Slumpbuster FFB, also the website at theslumpbuster.com. We're also on Spotify, YouTube, Google Play, and iTunes. As always, like, rate, subscribe, review, download, share, tell your friends. On the Instagram, we have memes and funny posts and our rankings for the week. So that's going to be it for us. Aundre, do you have anything?
Nope. Go Steelers.
Screw the Steelers. And as always, guys, make sure you talk crap to your fantasy buddies. And Aundre is going to get kicked out of my house in 3, 2, 1.